And on this special broadcast, we have a very, very special guest joining us all the way from Arizona in United States of America, whose love, respect for Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India is no great secret. I'm very, very pleased to welcome on the show Mary Millben, American actress and singer. In fact, she has also wished Prime Minister Narendra Modi, here is lovely Mary joining us on the show. She has wished Prime Minister Narendra Modi soon after his swearing-in ceremony. And Mary, I'm going to come to you, but before that, let's talk about your tweet also. And taking to the social media X, the actress said, and I quote, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's greatest responsibility is to be the God's ambassador. That's her tweet. And she also says, my op-ed in New India Abroad today as Shri Narendra Modi takes his oath as Prime Minister of India for the third consecutive time. A new India begins on his historic day. In fact, if you could just do a quick recall of those magnificent visuals earlier in last year in America, where American singer, she touched Prime Minister Modi's feet and sought blessings after singing India's national anthem at the concluding event for the official state visit of Prime Minister in June 2023. And that's the moment on your screen. Can we have Mary please on the screen as we start talking to her?
Namaste to you, my dear. Namaste. It's so wonderful to be with you here today. Your evening, my morning. So it's wonderful to see you. And you look beautiful, I tell you. I loved, as I was watching the ceremony this morning.
Thank you, Mary.
Seeing everyone. It's beautiful. You look beautiful here.
It's amazing. It's such a pleasure and honor for us to have you on this special broadcast on DD India. Namaste from India. And I have a guest in the studio who also wants to talk to you. Thank you very much. Okay. So, Mary, your team has been telling me that you were glued to Indian televisions on the election day. That's the yes, and even today, it's early morning there in Detroit. So, and taking a cue from your tweet, could you please share your thoughts with the viewers of DD India in India and abroad, and your fans also?
Sure. Well, it's just wonderful to be here with you. Thanks for having me on here at the conclusion of such a historic, wonderful day and few days in celebration of the Prime Minister entering this historic third term. That is correct. I'm a political junkie at heart, so I have on the TVs in the house just about every country, certainly under the election season, rolling full time. But I certainly was engaged during your election season there, the last day of voting, and certainly the last several days as we were approaching the ceremony today. And it's really just a historic time, not for India, but for the world. Prime Minister Modi taking his third term, which, if I understand, has not been done since 1962, if I'm not mistaken. So it is a historic day for India, but really for the world. What Prime Minister Modi has done for India and positioning India in the world, in the region, is really remarkable. And so that's why you see such an energy across the world, a celebratory energy across the world for the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister continuing is certainly important to the United States, and now you see important to the stability of the world. In my tweet, certainly,
yes,
today, op-ed that was shared in New India Abroad, I just was reiterating some thoughts that I certainly said a few days ago in regards to the Prime Minister's third term. Of course, he was elected by the people, chosen by the people, and so the democratic process has played out.
Okay.
But I certainly believe that this third term has more to, not so much to do with, the democratic process. I really believe it has to do with the spiritual process.
Okay.
To have, and we can get into that certainly.
Yes. You've seen the entire ceremony and our magnificent lawns of Rashtrapati Bhavan. At least 8,000 invitees there. It has certainly become not really an ornamental event, so to say, but people's event. And that's the vision of Prime Minister Modi. You have yourself seen many presidential elections and the events out there. So how do you look at this one?
Well, you're right. I've had the great pleasure to work for a United States president as a young staffer in the Bush administration, Bush 43, and now I've had the great pleasure to sing for 4 consecutive U.S. presidents. I had the wonderful opportunity to sing for the 58th presidential inauguration of President Trump for his victory celebration. So I've been around American politics. I've been around presidential inaugurations, oath ceremonies, and so I understand the importance of these moments. And they are very symbolic because you come out of a very divided time. And when those oath ceremonies, presidential inaugurations come about, they're a real symbolic moment for a country to really have a healthy, moral, spiritual reset that is important for the betterment of the country. And so that's what today was. That's how I view today for the Prime Minister. It was certainly a moment for him to publicly acknowledge coming back into the responsibility as Prime Minister, taking that oath under God. And then it was a moment for the entire country to collectively have a healthy, moral, spiritual reset. It doesn't matter today whether you voted for the BJP, the INC, or whatever political party. Today was a moment that celebrated being Indian. It was a moment to celebrate being a part of a democratic process. And I hope that today's oath ceremony, now going forward tomorrow and through the days as the Prime Minister continues to lead, that
we're playing those visuals. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you here, but I'm really compelled and tempted to ask you, when you touch Prime Minister Modi's feet in that diaspora event, what were the emotions that were going through? And today you seem to be as happy as the rest of us and excited to witness history in making.
Sure. It was a beautiful moment. I tell you, it was a great honor to be a part of the Prime Minister's state arrival visit to the United States. It was a wonderful time for the United States to experience the Prime Minister, for the entire country, whether those who were familiar with the Prime Minister or not, to have a great education on the wonderful leadership the Prime Minister has had in India and certainly across the world. And so it was a really meaningful moment to share the Indian national anthem with so many of my American family, and then to meet the Prime Minister and have some intimate moments on stage following that performance. I have great admiration for the Prime Minister, and so I when that moment was facilitated, I certainly wanted to honor the Prime Minister in front of the world and that gesture. And I feel that that's important, that going forward, after these election seasons, when the leader is in place, that we find moments where we can honor our leaders and certainly do that publicly.
Yes, but you also, on conversations earlier also, I remember you telling me that Narendra Modi is one of the most popular world leaders, quote unquote, in America. And now with this third term, how do you see that?
Well, I certainly see it as a positive. If I were to be a little candid, he certainly has proved all his critics wrong in the West, and that makes me happy because, unfortunately, there has been more critics arising in the West as it compares to the Prime Minister. But this third term, this historic third term, certainly has silenced those critics, and it has encouraged and more or less required everyone to come to the table in support of the Prime Minister and the future of India. And so it is an exciting day in the United States. I know, talking with a lot of friends and folks here in the Indian American community over the course of the weekend and certainly today, it's a wonderful time. And I certainly know, as many know, that the Prime Minister is the best leader for the U.S.-India relationship. And so he continues in this position is very important to the United States.
Yes. Mary, I have a very special guest in the studio also. Why special? Because he understands Indian government and politics like nobody else, and he's also an RSS ideologue, and sitting here is in our studio, Praful Ketkar, who would also want to talk to you. He wishes to talk to you as well. So I'm leaving you with Praful Ketkarji. Yes, Praful, please continue.
Yeah.
Mary, namaste, sir. Namaste.
Mary, namaste, and thanks a lot for talking to you and making that point. Whoever you have voted, it doesn't matter. Now, Prime Minister Modi is Indian Prime Minister, and everybody should be, celebrating this moment. But I must ask you one important question. You literally called, him as God's ambassador in your write-up, and it is not very easy, as a celebrity, as a singer, endorsing a person like Prime Minister Modi, who has been traditionally seen as a very, divisive figure. In the age of cancel culture, in the age of, acrimonies, how do you experience this and how do you see this? How should we rather spiritually and morally handle these kind of attitudes which are really undemocratic and intolerant? How, what has been your experience and what would be your suggestion to address this kind of phenomena?
Well, thank you so much for the question and the opportunity to address this. I tell you, in America, and certainly in India and countries that are democracies, it's a blessing that you can worship the God that you want to worship, exercise the religion and faith that is yours. That's a blessing. And in my experience and in my life, my faith is the root of that. There's no separation between the values and the convictions of my faith and what I do in the public sphere. It's a commonality that the Prime Minister and I share because he is a very spiritual man. He's a very devout man of faith, and that part of his life as a man of faith works in tandem to who he is as a leader in India. And so I think it's very important, especially in this time when you have periods of elections and periods certainly of division, and certainly when you are given the task to unify Prime Minister's case, 1.4 billion people, your faith has to be the root, the foundation, the driving moral compass, and how you lead. And I really do believe that the Prime Minister's greatest responsibility now going forth as the leader of India is to really be God's ambassador. That's why he had to take an oath before God. It's the same process that the American president takes an oath before God. That association with faith in the context of leadership is very important. And those who are great leaders, those who leave a great legacy, those who go down in the history books are those who are not afraid to have a moral compass during important times in the world. And so I believe that the Prime Minister is the right leader because he's not afraid to be vocal about his faith. He's not afraid to incorporate his faith and how he leads. And that's the same thing for me. I'll never be ashamed to share that I am a Christian woman, that my Christian values and my Christian faith is a part of how I lead, a part of how I contribute to the world, and a part of how I work to unify the world, especially through the vehicle of music and those other things that I play. So I appreciate your question. And I tell you, cancel culture and all these types of things certainly can try to deter you from being vocal about your faith and leadership, but should never be fearful to be who we are called to be by God in this time in the earth.
Okay, and having said that, Mary, your thoughts, the fact that India has actually transitioned or moved from middle power to the major power under the leadership, yes, you're nodding out there, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, and now the third term. When he talks, the world listens?
Absolutely. When he talks, the world listens. We listen here in the United States, certainly countries across the world listen. And that just is credited to the Prime Minister's strategic leadership on how India really will continue to play a major role in the stability of the world. You certainly saw that on full display during the G20 summit held in India last September, and certainly the entrance of the African Union, which was a historic moment, certainly for not only Africa, but for the world. The United States had plenty of opportunities to welcome the African Union, and certainly Prime Minister Modi facilitated that symbolic moment. But India, the Prime Minister really has become a focal point for global stability. And so I certainly understand, as many in the United States understand, that the Prime Minister's leadership is important for not only the U.S.-India relationship, but our relationship with China, our relationship with Russia, our relationship with countries across the world, where there may be mediation or greater conversation about global policy.
Okay. One last question, Mary, before we leave you. Your thoughts, Narendra Modi in term 3 and the rest of the world?
Well, I'm excited for the Prime Minister. Let me certainly, I'm sure the Prime Minister will see our dialogue. So let me congratulate you, Prime Minister Modi, on your third historic term. I'm very happy for you, excited for you, and certainly I'm excited for the people of India. And the Prime Minister has my support. He has my prayers. I certainly praying for the Prime Minister every day. It's a tough job,
Yes,
and he
yes.
certainly. It's a tough job during this time in India and certainly in the world. And so my encouragement
Yes,
certainly to
yes.
the Prime Minister, continue to be God's ambassador to the people of India. I would say, trust your leader. Give him time. You chose him to lead, just as God has chosen him to lead. And so, come behind the Prime Minister, join in a unified effort, and I tell you, great things will come out of this third term with the Prime Minister.
Okay, definitely so. Thank you very much, Mary Millben, actress and American singer, for joining us live all the way from US and sharing your thoughts. I've been also told that as you are very fond of everything that is Indian, our culture, our cuisine, our our traditional dresses,
Everything.
and of course, huge respect for our Prime Minister Modi. Thank you, Mary. Have a great day ahead. Thanks for joining.
Yes, thanks for having me. Look forward to seeing you.
Pleasure is ours.